Business evolves. You've been distracted with your mother's illness. We need someone who's fully committed. He slid a folder across the table. This is a fair severance package. 2 months' salary. Standard non-compete clause. Your personal items are being packed as we speak. I stared at him. This man who'd been my business partner since graduation. The man who'd stood beside me as we landed our first client. Who'd toasted my promotion ideas that had doubled our growth 3 years running. This isn't a discussion, Amelia. The decision's been made. The board vote was unanimous. Unanimous? My voice cracked. Even Talia? My closest ally, my friend who'd been there from the beginning. Hudson's silence was my answer. When did this vote happen? Tuesday, while you were at your mother's treatment. The room spun. Tuesday, when I'd texted them from the hospital waiting room about my new campaign idea for Blue Way. When Talia had responded with a thumbs-up emoji and "We've got everything covered here," I stood on wobbly legs. I built half this company. Our biggest clients came because of my strategies, and we appreciate your past contributions. He checked his watch. Security will escort you out, for everyone's comfort. My throat closed as I saw Pat from security hovering in the doorway. I'd attended his daughter's ballet recital last month. Hudson, you can't just... We can and we have. Look, don't make this ugly. You're talented, you'll land somewhere. Just not with any of our clients. Per the non-compete. As Pat led me down the hallway past averted gazes and hushed whispers, I glimpsed Talia ducking into a conference room. Our eyes met for half a second before she looked away. Through the glass walls, I saw them waiting. Hudson, Ren, and Brielle, my former partners, sitting together with champagne flutes in hand. I was outside on the sidewalk before I realized they'd already changed the door codes. 12 years erased in 12 minutes. What I didn't know then, standing there clutching a cardboard box of desk plants and coffee mugs, was that this wasn't just an ending. It was the first move in a game I would spend 12 years learning how to win. Wow, I can see you're still reading this. If you've ever felt betrayed or underestimated, you know exactly how Amelia felt in that moment. Hit the like button if you've ever wanted to prove someone wrong who hurt you, and subscribe for more stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Trust me, what Amelia does next is something you don't want to miss. My name is Amelia Gray, and before that day, I had been the creative strategy director at what was then called Gray Hudson Park Associates. Yes, my name was on the door. Or it had been until I returned from the parking garage to find a maintenance worker, already removing the vinyl lettering. People in our industry knew me as the idea person, the one who could walk into a failing business and spot the one unique thing they could leverage to turn everything around. I wasn't just good at my job, I lived for it. Every client success felt personal. Every campaign launch gave me the same thrill as the first time I'd seen my work on a billboard downtown. I'd met Hudson Park in college. We were both ambitious business majors with big dreams and empty bank accounts. I had the creative vision, he had the confidence and connections. We graduated and spent 2 years working at established firms before deciding to strike out on our own. Hudson brought in Ren Willis, an old family friend with investor connections, and later Brielle Tanner joined with her technical expertise. Together, we built something special. Our boutique business strategy firm quickly developed a reputation for transforming struggling companies into success stories. By year 5, we had a waiting list of clients and a team of 20 talented people working under us. My specialties were retail and hospitality, businesses where customer experience made all the difference. I developed a process that identified emotional connection points in customer journeys. When properly leveraged, these connections built fierce loyalty and word-of-mouth growth that no advertising budget could match. The signs of trouble started small. Meetings rescheduled when I was supposed to present. Client emails mysteriously rerouted to Hudson's inbox instead of mine. Comments about my unconventional approaches that had once been compliments now delivered with slight frowns. Then my mother got sick. Aggressive cancer. The kind that doesn't wait for convenient timing. I started flying to Arizona every other weekend for her treatments. I worked remotely, joining meetings through video calls from hospital waiting rooms. working on proposals until 3 a.m. after spending days at her bedside. Take the time you need, Hudson had said. Family comes first. I believed him. That was my first mistake. After being escorted from the building, I called Talia immediately. Her voicemail picked up. I tried her personal number. Straight to voicemail. I texted, "What happened? Please talk to me." 3 hours later, her response, "I'm sorry. It wasn't personal. They said if I didn't vote with them, I'd be next." I spent that night in shock, sitting on my apartment floor, surrounded by framed awards our firm had won based on my campaigns. The next morning, I pulled myself together and called our biggest client, Andover Retail Group. "I'm sorry, Amelia," their marketing director said awkwardly. "We've been informed that Hudson will be handling our account moving forward." I tried another client, then another. Same response each time. By week's end, I'd updated my resume and begun applying for positions at other firms. I had an impressive portfolio and industry recognition. Finding a new job would be straightforward, or so I thought. The first interview went well until the final question. "Just curious, why did you leave Gray Hudson Park?" I gave a diplomatic answer about seeking new challenges. The interviewer nodded, but I never heard back. This pattern repeated 6 times at 6 different companies. On the 7th interview, with a small agency downtown, the owner was more direct. "Look, Amelia, your work is outstanding, but I got a call yesterday. Hudson Park said you violated client confidentiality agreements and attempted to poach clients on your way out. He said hiring you would be a liability." My stomach lurched. "That's completely false." She shrugged sympathetically. "Maybe, but this industry runs on relationships and reputation. I can't risk it. I can't risk it." That night, I discovered they'd contacted every major player in the regional business community. The message was clear. Amelia Gray is poison. Don't touch her. I sold my car first, then my designer clothes on resale apps. I downgraded from my downtown apartment to a tiny studio in the outskirts. I took contract work under the table, helping small businesses too small to be on my former partner's radar. Months turned into a year. I watched from the sidelines as my former company continued using my strategies. They even won an award for a campaign concept I'd developed before they pushed me out. In the acceptance photos, Hudson held the trophy while Brielle and Ren beamed beside him. No mention of where the idea originated. My mother died 18 months after I was forced out. At her funeral, standing alone as distant relatives offered awkward condolences, I realized I'd reached my lowest point. I had no career, dwindling savings, and now I'd lost the only person who'd always believed in me. That night in my cheap motel room near the funeral home, something shifted inside me. I was done being a victim. If the big agencies wouldn't hire me, I'd build something new, something they couldn't touch. I started with the smallest clients possible, local businesses too tiny for my former partners to notice or care about. A family-owned bakery struggling to compete with chain stores. A childcare center trying to fill enrollment gaps. I worked for trade, bread, free babysitting hours while I used their office space after hours. I created a new approach, focusing on community connection points that big agencies overlooked. The bakery started hosting monthly events, showcasing local artists, becoming a neighborhood hub. The childcare center partnered with senior centers for intergenerational programs that drew media attention. Slowly, carefully, I rebuilt. A coffee shop owner who loved my work referred me to his brother who owned 3 car washes. Success there led to a small regional chain of pet supply stores. I operated under the radar, never taking credit publicly, building a network of business owners who shared one thing. They'd all been ignored by larger agencies like my former firm. 5 years after being pushed out, I was making enough to rent a small office space. I hired my first employee, Danny, a recent graduate with brilliant ideas but no industry connections. I recognized myself in her hunger to prove herself. "Why are we calling it New Vision Partners?" she asked on her first day. "Why not use your name? You're the reason clients come to us. If you also..." I showed her the non-compete clause I'd signed under duress. For 2 more years, I can't openly compete with them using my name. Besides, this isn't about me anymore. It's about building something better. 7 years in, we had 5 employees and a growing reputation among small to mid-sized businesses. Our approach, focusing on authentic community connections and emotional customer experiences, was generating results that traditional advertising couldn't match. Then came the pivotal moment, the one that would eventually bring everything full circle. A regional retailer with 30 locations was struggling against online competition. Their marketing director had worked with me years before at a different company, before the blacklisting. She remembered my work and reached out secretly. "My boss wants to hire Gray Hudson Park," she admitted. "They handle all our competitors." But I told him I know someone better. It was our biggest opportunity yet. If we succeeded, other mid-sized companies would notice. If we failed, my former partners would make sure everyone heard about it. "We need this account," Danny said during our strategy session. "But their budget expectations are based on what they'd pay Gray Hudson Park. Then we'll deliver twice the value at the same price," I decided. "We'll show them what real innovation looks like." We worked around the clock for 2 weeks preparing our proposal. The morning of the presentation, I received a text from an unknown number. "Hudson found out you're pitching to Regional Retail Group. He's meeting with their CEO right now." I froze, staring at my phone. After all these years, they were still working to destroy me. "Everything okay?" Danny asked, noticing my expression. I showed her the message. "They're trying to cut us off before we can even present. Can they still do that? After all this time?" I took a deep breath. "Let's find out." We arrived at Regional Retail Group's headquarters 30 minutes early. In the lobby bathroom, I splashed water on my face and stared at my reflection. The woman looking back had changed from the one who'd been escorted from her own company 12 years ago. Hardship had sharpened me. Struggle had strengthened me. As we approached the reception desk, I saw them through the glass conference room doors. Hudson, Brielle, and Wren, laughing with Regional's executive team like old friends. Hudson happened to glance up, his smile freezing when he spotted me. For a moment, I considered walking away. They had connections, resources, a 30-person team. We had 5 people working out of a converted warehouse space, but they didn't have what mattered most: genuine innovation. For years, they'd been recycling my old ideas, making minor adjustments to strategies I'd developed before they pushed me out. I straightened my spine and approached the receptionist. "Amelia Gray and team from New Vision Partners. We have a presentation scheduled." Hudson was already striding toward us, hand extended, face arranged in a practiced expression of surprise. "Amelia, what an unexpected pleasure. It's been too long." Behind that smile, I saw something new in his eyes. Fear. "Hudson," I replied, not taking his hand. "I didn't realize you'd be here. Our meeting with Regional starts in 20 minutes. "Yes, well." He glanced back at the conference room where Brielle and Wren were now standing, watching us. We were just wrapping up, old friends catching up. The regional marketing director approached, looking uncomfortable. "Amelia, I'm sorry. I should have told you. When the executive team heard we were considering your proposal, they wanted to hear from Gray Hudson Park as well." Hudson's smile widened. "It's only fair to compare options. Although I'm curious what kind of operation you're running these days, Amelia. Something small and specialized, I assume." The condescension in his voice ignited something in me. 12 years of being sidelined, erased, and undermined crystallized into perfect clarity. "Actually, Hudson, we specialize in results. Speaking of which, how's the Hargrove campaign going? I heard their sales are down 20% since you took over." His smile faltered. Hargrove had been a loyal client of mine before the ouster. Under my guidance, they'd seen double-digit growth for 3 consecutive years. "Market fluctuations," he said dismissively. "They're repositioning, of course. And Westway Hospitality? Still having trouble with customer retention?" A muscle twitched in his jaw. These were public struggles his firm was having, carefully tracked by industry watchers. Clients that had thrived under my leadership We're now underperforming under theirs. We should catch up sometime, Amelia. For old time's sake, he said, clearly trying to end the conversation. We're catching up right now, I replied pleasantly. Unless you need to leave? I understand large agencies like yours have so many clients to juggle. Quality must be difficult to maintain at that scale. The regional CEO approached, hand extended. Ms. Gray? I'm Alex Torres. I've heard interesting things about your approach. Hudson tried to interject, but Torres continued. We've been with Gray Hudson Park for our digital campaigns, but our results have plateaued. Your reputation with community-centered strategies caught my attention. Thank you for the opportunity, I said, ignoring Hudson's darkening expression. We're excited to share our vision. I'm looking forward to it, Torres replied. We're actually running ahead of schedule. Would you be ready to present now? I smiled. Absolutely. As we followed Torres toward the conference room, Hudson stepped in beside me, voice low. This is cute, Amelia. Playing the underdog. But don't embarrass yourself. These people need scale and resources that your little operation can't provide. I paused, turning to face him directly. You know what your problem is, Hudson. You still think this business is about who has the biggest office or the most employees. It never was. It's about who has the best ideas. And you haven't had an original idea since you pushed me out the door. His face flushed. We'll see about that. The presentation room fell silent as we entered. Brielle and Ren looked as polished and confident as ever, but I noticed new lines around their eyes, a tightness in their expressions. Torres addressed the room. Since both teams are here, I thought we could try something different. Rather than separate presentations, let's have a conversation. What's your assessment of our current market position, and how would you approach our challenges? Hudson jumped in immediately with rehearsed talking points about digital transformation and social media analytics. I let him speak, watching the executives' faces. They'd heard this all before. When he finished, Torres turned to me. Ms. Gray, your thoughts? I took a breath. With respect, I think you're asking the wrong question. Your market position isn't the problem. It's your connection with your customers. I pulled out my phone and showed them photos I'd taken in 3 of their stores. I visited 12 of your locations last week. In each one, I asked regular customers what made them choose your stores over competitors or online options. Not a single person mentioned your prices or your products. The executives leaned forward as I continued. They talked about Tony at your downtown location, who remembers everyone's names. They mentioned the community board at your West Side store, where local events are featured. They talked about how your South County manager helped a customer find a special order item from a competitor when you didn't carry it. One executive nodded. That's Paula. She's been with us 15 years. Exactly. Your competitive advantage isn't your products or prices. It's your people and your place in the community. But none of your current marketing reflects that. Yep, I unveiled our proposal. A complete strategy shift that would spotlight the human connections in their stores, featuring actual employees and customers in location-specific campaigns. This isn't just about warm feelings, I explained. Research shows consumers will pay 23% more and travel further to shop at businesses where they feel a personal connection. While your competitors race to the bottom on price, you can win on relationship. By the time I finished outlining our strategy, the energy in the room had completely shifted. The regional team was engaged, asking specific questions, building on our ideas with their own insights. Hudson tried repeatedly to redirect the conversation back to metrics and analytics, but it was clear he'd lost the room. When Torres announced they needed time to deliberate, Brielle looked pale. As we packed up our materials, Hudson approached one last time. Impressive, he said tightly. But we both know you don't have the infrastructure to implement a 30-location campaign. When you fail to deliver, we'll be there to pick up the pieces. I smiled. That's where you're wrong, Hudson. I've spent 12 years building exactly what these clients need. You've spent 12 years coasting on old ideas while watching your results decline. The difference is, I learned from my struggles. What have you learned from your success? Before he could answer, Torres approached. Amelia, do you have time to discuss a few details privately? But I nodded, gathering my things. As I followed Torres out, I glanced back to see Ren and Brielle in heated conversation with Hudson. The look on his face told me everything I needed to know. The regional account was ours. That victory changed everything. Within months, the success of our regional campaign had attracted attention throughout the industry. Businesses that had once considered us too small began reaching out. We moved to a larger office and hired 10 new team members, all selected for their unique perspectives and genuine passion. I was careful never to compete directly with Gray Hudson Park. We didn't target their existing clients or copy their approaches. Instead, we created an entirely new model that made their methods look increasingly outdated. Our reputation grew. Business journals wrote about the new vision approach to community-centered marketing. I was invited to speak at conferences and universities. Always, I deflected personal attention to focus on our work and our team. Then came the opportunity that would change everything. 11 years and 10 months after being pushed out of my own company, I received a call from a number I didn't recognize. Is this Amelia Gray? The voice was unfamiliar. Yes, who's calling? My name is Jamie Wheeler. I'm the new CEO of National Shopping Network. I nearly dropped the phone. NSN was the largest retail corporation in the region, with over 200 locations across 5 states. They were also Gray Hudson Park's biggest and longest-standing client. What can I do for you, Jamie? I've been watching your work with Regional. Their growth numbers are impressive, especially their customer loyalty metrics. I'd like to discuss the possibility of your firm handling our entire marketing strategy going forward. My heart raced. That's a significant opportunity. Aren't you currently working with Gray Hudson Park? We are, for now. The implication was clear. Can you meet tomorrow? The next morning, I gathered our leadership team. This is bigger than anything we've taken on. If we get this account, it changes everything. Danny, now my creative director, looked concerned. This is direct competition with your former partners. Are you sure you want to go head-to-head with them? I considered the question. For years, I'd built a separate path, never directly challenging Hudson and the others. Part of me had been avoiding the confrontation, focusing on building something new rather than destroying what they had. This isn't about them, I said finally. NSN came to us. They need what we offer. If that means Gray Hudson Park loses their biggest client, that's business. The pitch meeting went brilliantly. Our research into NSN's customer base revealed patterns and opportunities that their current agency had missed. Jamie Wheeler didn't even pretend to consider other options. I've made my decision, he announced at the end of our presentation. New Vision Partners will handle all NSN marketing effective immediately. I'll have legal draft the contracts. 2 days later, the business news broke. National Shopping Network ends 15-year relationship with Gray Hudson Park moves account to New Vision Partners. The industry was stunned. NSN represented nearly 30% of Gray Hudson Park's annual revenue. Their stock price dropped 15% by market close. That evening, my phone lit up with a familiar number I hadn't seen in 12 years. I stared at it, heart pounding, before answering. Hello, Amelia? Hudson's voice was warm, friendly, as if the past 12 years had never happened. Congratulations on the NSN account. That's quite an achievement. Thank you, I replied cautiously. Listen, I've been thinking. This industry has changed so much since we started. Your approach with community engagement is clearly resonating. Our methods with data analytics and scale still have value. Have you ever considered the potential of joining forces again? I nearly laughed out loud. Joining forces? A merger. Your vision, our infrastructure. We could dominate the market together, like we always planned. That's an interesting proposal, I said, keeping my voice neutral. Why now? He chuckled, the sound hollow. Let's be honest. We both have something the other needs. You've built an impressive boutique operation with a fresh approach. We have the established client base and operational capacity. Together, we'd be unstoppable. What he wasn't saying They were bleeding clients and needed my innovation to survive. I'd need to discuss this with my leadership team, I said. Can we meet next week? Absolutely. How about lunch on Monday? The four of us. You, me, Ren, and Brielle. For old time's sake. Make it a formal meeting at our office, I countered. If we're discussing a potential merger, I want my team involved from the beginning. So, he hesitated only briefly. Of course. Tuesday at 10? Perfect. After hanging up, I sat motionless, absorbing what had just happened. After 12 years of working to destroy my career, Hudson was now proposing a partnership, not because he valued me or regretted what they'd done, but because they needed what I had built. The question was, what would I do with this opportunity? For the first time in 12 years, I held all the cards. When I told my team about Hudson's merger proposal, their reactions ranged from disbelief to outrage. You can't seriously be considering this, Danny said, pacing around our conference room. These people destroyed your career, blacklisted you across the industry, and now that you're successful, they want to join forces. I'm not considering anything yet, I replied. I'm listening. There's a difference. Marco, our operations director, frowned. This feels like a trap. What's stopping them from absorbing our client relationships and then pushing you out again? Nothing, I acknowledged. Except this time, I'd be going in with my eyes open. Over the weekend, I received 3 calls from industry contacts. Hudson was apparently telling people the merger was practically finalized. He was positioning it as Gray Hudson Park acquiring New Vision partners, with me returning to the fold. By Monday morning, industry blogs were speculating about the potential merger. Our clients were calling, concerned about what it meant for their accounts. The narrative was already being shaped, not as equals coming together, but as the established player swallowing the upstart. Classic Hudson, I muttered, reviewing the articles. He's trying to pressure us by creating public expectation. Tuesday morning arrived with a flurry of activity. Our office had been meticulously prepared for the meeting. The conference room displayed case studies of our most successful campaigns, awards we'd won, and growth charts for our clients. At 9:58, the receptionist called up. Ms. Gray, your guests have arrived. I took a deep breath. Send them up in 5 minutes. I gathered my team in the conference room. Remember, we're just listening today. No commitments. No agreements. Let them do most of the talking. At precisely 10:05, Hudson, Brielle, and Ren stepped off the elevator. They looked exactly as I remembered, yet somehow diminished. Hudson's confident stride seemed more performed than natural. Brielle's designer outfit couldn't quite hide the tension in her shoulders. Ren's smile appeared strained. Amelia! Hudson opened his arms as if expecting a hug. I extended my hand instead. Welcome to New Vision Partners. This is my leadership team. Danny Chen, our creative director. Marco Jimenez, operations. Elena Patel, client strategy. And Will Torres, research and analytics. Quite the operation you've built, Brielle commented, glancing around. Our office was modern but modest, functional rather than flashy. Charming. The condescension in her tone wasn't lost on anyone. We focus our resources on results rather than appearances, I replied evenly. Please, let's sit. Once settled in the conference room, Hudson launched into his pitch. The market was changing. Clients wanted integrated approaches. Our 2 companies had complementary strengths. Together, we could dominate the industry. We're prepared to offer very favorable terms, he said, sliding a folder across the table. You'd have a significant leadership role in the combined entity, equity stake, compensation package. I didn't touch the folder. Before we discuss terms, I'd like to understand the vision better. What exactly do you see each company contributing to this merger? Ren jumped in. Your community engagement strategies have proven effective for certain client segments. Our data-driven approach works well for others. Combined, we offer a full spectrum. And the leadership structure? I asked. We envision a smooth integration, Hudson replied smoothly. You'd lead creative strategy, reporting to our executive committee. Your team would be evaluated for appropriate positions within our existing structure. I noted the language, evaluated, appropriate positions, our structure. Nothing had changed. They still saw themselves as the superior entity, graciously allowing me a place at their table. I see. And what about your current challenges? I understand you've lost several major accounts recently. Is that trend continuing? Hudson's smile tightened. Market fluctuations? Nothing concerning. And your stock price dropping 30% over the past year? Temporary adjustment, Ren interjected. Actually, news of our potential merger has already sparked investor interest. Yes, I saw the articles suggesting you were acquiring us, I noted. Interesting framing since we haven't agreed to anything. Brielle leaned forward. Amelia, let's be direct. You've built an impressive boutique agency with a specific niche, but you don't have the infrastructure to properly service NSN long-term. They'll realize that eventually. We're offering you a way to leverage our resources while maintaining your creative vision. End quote. I appreciate your concern, I replied. But NSN came to us specifically because they weren't satisfied with the results they were getting from your infrastructure. So I'm curious why you think combining our approaches would benefit either of us. Hudson's expression darkened momentarily before he forced another smile. Perhaps we should discuss this privately, Amelia. For old time's sake. My team stays, I said firmly. We make decisions together here. Fine. His tone shifted, becoming more direct. The truth is, this industry is consolidating. Smaller agencies are being absorbed or eliminated. You've had a good run, but without proper scale, you won't survive the next 5 years. We're offering you security and recognition for what you've built. I studied him for a moment. Can I ask you something, Hudson? In the 12 years since you forced me out of my own company, changed the locks while I was caring for my dying mother, and blacklisted me across the industry, did you ever once consider you might have made a mistake? The room fell silent. Hudson glanced at Ren and Brielle, clearly uncomfortable with this direct reference to their past actions. Business decisions are complex, he finally said. We did what we thought was necessary at the time. And now? What's necessary now? He sighed, dropping the pretense. We need your approach, Amelia. Our clients are demanding the kind of community engagement strategies you've pioneered. Our teams can't replicate it. We've tried. So to be clear, I said, you're not offering me a merger of equals. You're not even offering me a fair acquisition. You're asking me to save the company you stole from me. Brielle interjected. That's an emotional characterization. I have Gen. It's an accurate one. I cut her off. You orchestrated a coup while I was caring for my dying mother. You systematically contacted every potential employer to ensure I couldn't work in this industry again. You forced me to start over from nothing. And look what you built, Hudson gestured around. Clearly it worked out. No thanks to you, Danny muttered. I stood up. We'll need time to consider your proposal. In the meantime, I'd like to understand exactly what we'd be getting. Would you be willing to share your current client list, retention rates, and profitability numbers? They exchanged glances. That's highly confidential, Ren objected. So is a merger discussion, I countered. If you want this conversation to continue, we need complete transparency. Hudson hesitated, then nodded. We can provide high-level overviews. Under NDA, of course. Of course. Send them over by Friday, and we'll reconvene next week. After they left, my team erupted. You can't seriously be considering this, Elena exclaimed. I'm not, I assured them. But I am very interested in seeing those numbers. The data arrived Thursday afternoon. It was worse than I'd imagined. Grey Hudson Park had lost not just NSN, but 5 other major clients in the past year. Their profit margins had shrunk to nearly nothing. Most tellingly, their client retention rate had plummeted to just 42%. They're desperate, Marco observed as we reviewed the figures. Without NSN, they're barely staying afloat. And they know it, I added. Which explains why Hudson is suddenly interested in my community engagement strategies after 12 years of dismissing them. That night, I couldn't sleep. The position I now found myself in seemed almost surreal. After years of struggling, of being excluded and undermined, I held the power to save or destroy the very people who had tried to erase me. The question wasn't whether I could take revenge, it was whether I should. And if so, what form that revenge should take. By morning, I had my answer. The following Tuesday, Hudson, Wren, and Brielle returned, looking expectant. We've reviewed your proposal and your financial information. I began once we were seated. Based on our analysis, we've come to a decision. Hudson leaned forward eagerly. I knew you'd see the potential. Together, we'll dominate this market. Actually, we're declining your merger offer. His expression froze. What? We're declining. New Vision Partners will remain independent. Brielle shook her head. Amelia, you're not thinking clearly. This is the opportunity of a lifetime. Amelia, no, Brielle. The opportunity of a lifetime was 12 years ago, when you had the chance to be decent human beings. Instead, you chose betrayal. This is business, not personal, Wren argued. It became personal when you called every agency in town to blacklist me. I replied, when you made sure I couldn't earn a living in the industry I helped build. Hudson's face darkened. So, this is about revenge? Turning us down just to watch us struggle? No, I said calmly. This is about something you've never understood, value. You see, while you were busy pushing me out and taking credit for my ideas, you failed to create anything new. You've been recycling the same strategies for 12 years, wondering why they're becoming less effective. I slid a folder across the table. This is our counteroffer. Hudson opened it, confusion crossing his face. What is this? A consulting proposal. New Vision Partners will provide strategic consulting services to Gray Hudson Park for a period of 12 months. We'll help you transition your approach to better serve your remaining clients. In exchange, you'll pay us a monthly retainer plus performance bonuses based on client retention improvements. Wren scoffed. You want us to hire you as consultants? That's your counteroffer to our merger proposal? Yes, because you don't need a merger. You need innovation, something you've lacked since you pushed me out. This is insulting, Brielle snapped, standing up. We offered you a partnership, and you're treating us like clients. I'm offering you salvation. I corrected her. Because the truth is, without NSN and with your current client retention rate, Gray Hudson Park will be insolvent within 8 months. This is your lifeline. Hudson stared at me, realization dawning. You already knew everything before we sent over the financials. This was your plan all along. I did my research, I acknowledged. Just as you should have done before approaching me with a merger proposal that benefited only you. And if we refuse your generous offer? Wren asked coldly. I shrugged. That's your choice. But the industry already knows you're in trouble. When Gray Hudson Park folds, I'll ensure everyone understands it wasn't because I rejected your merger offer. It was because you never understood what makes this business work: genuine innovation and human connection. The three of them sat in stunned silence. You've got 48 hours to decide, I said, standing up. Marco will show you out. The next day, industry blogs reported that merger talks between Gray Hudson Park and New Vision Partners had fallen through. Their stock dropped another 12%. At 4:57 p.m. on Thursday, my assistant forwarded me an email from Hudson. The subject line read simply, "We accept." Over the next 12 months, New Vision Partners transformed Gray Hudson Park's approach, teaching them the community engagement strategies I'd developed after being forced to start over. We helped them rebuild client relationships and stabilize their business. In return, they paid us nearly as much as they'd collectively earned during the 12 years they'd kept me out of the industry. The true victory wasn't financial, though. It was watching Hudson, Wren, and Brielle implement my strategies under my guidance, acknowledging with every action that I had been right all along. At the end of our consulting contract, I met with Hudson one last time. You could have destroyed us, he said quietly. Instead, you saved us. Why? Because success is the best revenge, I replied. You took my company, my clients, and my reputation. But you couldn't take my creativity or my resilience, forcing you to pay me to teach you what you threw away 12 years ago. That's justice. He nodded slowly. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. I know. But some things can't be undone, Hudson. Only rebuilt differently. Today, New Vision Partners continues to thrive. We've expanded to 3 offices serving clients across the country. Gray Hudson Park survives as a smaller but stable agency, forever in our shadow. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying your enemies. It's forcing them to recognize that they destroyed themselves when they underestimated you. If you've ever been underestimated, pushed aside, or told you weren't good enough, remember this. Your greatest power lies in proving them wrong on your own terms. Like and subscribe if this story resonated with you, and share in the comments a time when you turned rejection into your greatest strength. Remember, success isn't just about winning. It's about redefining the game so completely that those who tried to exclude you end up following your lead.